Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Your Money Life podcast. We are on episode 159. Thank you all for listening. Make sure wherever you're listening, make sure you subscribe, 5-star rate, and review this podcast. If you're listening on YouTube, go to subscribe button so you get every video that we do and every episode that we do. If you're listening on Apple, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcast, make sure you 5-star rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast because we've got this coming every single week for you, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, this episode is brought to you by Cozy Earth. That's COZYEARTH.com. Make sure you check out Cozy Earth. It's past Valentine's Day, but it doesn't matter. You can still get elevated basics made to last. Cozy Earth has menswear, women's wear, and it's loungewear. It's made from natural, breathable, temperature regulating premium clothing. And so as you see, I'm wearing it right now. But love it. It's all in season, all lines. It's versatile. They actually have bedding too. Nice bedding. We put the bedding in. It's great. So make sure you check out CozyEarth.com. And when you do check it out, you have an exclusive offer for Your Money Your Life listeners. You get 30% off if you go to the site and you pick some things that you like. 30% off. Go to the code. Go use the code YMYL to get 35% off today, whatever you want from Cozy Earth. So, folks, let's get into the episode. There was a lot going on this week. It was still a quiet week, right? The big thing that was this week was the Super Bowl. So the Super Bowl was the big thing this week. Who watched? What did you have? So I told you a couple weeks ago, I think last week, I was taking Kansas City, and that panned out. It was a great game. It was a great Super Bowl as far as the game is concerned. And Kansas City did sneak out with a victory in the closing seconds, 38-35. But a great game overall. So happy for the winning team and for the Eagles for making it there. Jalen Hurts played great. Even, if you talk about Patrick Mahomes being the best ever, at least the best right now that we have playing with Tom Brady retired. We'll see if Patrick Mahomes can get to the best ever status. He could possibly. Jalen Hurts also played extremely well. So what an incredible game that was. That was a really great Super Bowl to watch for everyone involved. Speaking of which, let's move on to more current news. So it's been kind of quiet in the markets. I think the big theme that everyone is seeing in the markets right now is you got new CPI data that came out, which was still trending lower in some cases, but still higher than you want CPI to be, especially for the Fed. So that, played into the markets yesterday. You had retail data come out as well, which we'll talk about. So you've seen a little bit more data in the markets, but it's still quiet. It's still quiet times right now. I don't think there's a lot of craziness in the markets. I think, you're seeing a little bit more of a steady growth phase right now. Investors just mulling over what the Fed's going to do next and what the next move will be. So with that, you still have earnings coming out. Roblox had earnings and they had strong growth. Pretty much, they have just they popped considerably yesterday. The shares popped around 26%. They had strong bookings, had strong interest in the metaverse, and their daily active users grew 19% in their last quarter to 58 million people, which is a lot. And a lot of people all those people spent nearly 13 billion hours playing, and its bookings grew at 17%. And that's users buying that in-game virtual currency Robux. So they had a strong quarter. And of course, the kids are able to create games and play games created by other users. A couple of those breakout games were Jailbreak and Meep City. And so that is quite interesting to watch. I think if you've seen still that virtual craze that was so crazy in 2021, it's still a trend that is still happening. A lot of people are still bucking on that trend. And you're going to still continue to see that. So Roblox is a beneficiary of the younger generation, especially using that trend and really diving deep into that trend. Oh, interesting. As of February 3, the average tax refund was $1,900, down from $2,200 last year. Yeah, that's an interesting fact there. So I think, for all of us listening, there's so much. There was a quieter news day this day, and I'm skimming through a bit more of the news. I would like to watch how many people watch the Super Bowl. This year they said there was the second most watched Super Bowl ever with 113 million viewers. So that's huge. We almost got to half the size of the population of the United States, which has 300 million people. Someone fact check that for me. So 113 million people tuned in to the Super Bowl this year, which is a crazy amount of people. Looks like regulators are doing more stable coin shutting down. Again, stable coin being something that has had a lot of trouble with different areas, especially just in the crypto market. But regulators are still coming out. Regulation is coming for that market because, again, there's a lot of unregistered release and sales of securities during the craze of 2021, 2020, all those things. There was a lot of unregistered sales of securities, which is going to be not only brought to light, but will be handled by regulators to shut that down from happening again. And so that's a big thing to keep watching. One thing I did was bet on the Super Bowl, and I won my bets. And so if you look at it, the Super Bowl betting hit a record. There was a record number of Super Bowl betting this year, which I think you're going to see that more and more, right? Like records hit for the Super Bowl for betting in general, just because it's a growing industry. But there was an estimated 50 million plus Americans that wagered over 16 billion, which is double last year's estimate. They doubled the amount of last year's estimate. So MGM Resorts, which runs BetMGM, which is an app, a sports book, said it was the most successful Super Bowl and most bet on single game sporting event ever. So the sportsbooks love the Super Bowl because there's so much money flying into their ecosystem. And you know the casino always wins in most cases for people. FanDuel said it processed 50,000 bets a second at its peak, and it averaged 2 million active users throughout the game. DraftKings predicted that the Bowl was going to be the largest customer acquisition event of the year. Oh, and one of their bettors won 2.7 million on a 1.7 million wager on the Chiefs. Wow. So it's just something that's going to continue to grow. And it has been continuing to grow for a while. And if you're just watching the trends, you see where it's shifting. So quite interesting to see that. Palantir, this was a big pandemic darling. The shares popped. The company they reported its quarterly profit, which was good for the business. They had a boost thanks to new government contracts and the revenue rose. So they have reoccurring revenue, which we've always talked about as being a strong thing that investors should want and would want because it's predictable. You can grow it. You have sticky customers, and they have probably the most sticky customers you could have, which is government contracts. And so they popped on strong news for their quarter as well. How was everybody's Valentine's Day? Consumers are expected to spend an average $193 for Valentine's Day. What did you spend? How was it? Tell me everything. I want to know how yours was. Mine was pretty good. Me and my fiance had a pretty chill and exciting Valentine's Day for ourselves. In more news, ladies and gentlemen, let's keep it going. So the layoffs are still happening, so we always have to address them, and they are still happening. So the big thing with the layoffs here this year was we saw it mostly in the tech sector, and now we're seeing it kind of filter through every other areas of the market. And so now you've seen KPMG, Neiman, announcing layoffs. KPMG said they're going to let go near 700 people. Neiman Marcus said they're eliminating about 500 positions. But with that, we still had an incredible job support, and employment rate's still low. So it seems to be specific sectors that it's hitting. And these people that are getting laid off, before their severance is even hit, they lose a severance, they're able to bounce back and find another position. And so that's a good thing for consumers, right? But how does that play into the fact where the Fed's saying, all right, we still have a low unemployment rate, we're still going to have increased spending. So that's a big thing to watch out for. And you mentioned Shopify. They said they're going to not only lay off people, they did that, they're going to cut staff meetings. This is a Canadian-based company. They're going to cut staff meetings and be more efficient. A lot of people are looking for ways to be more efficient, to be more cost efficient, to be more resources efficient. And that's a lot what companies are doing right now. And so you're seeing Shopify announce, they're cutting meetings and they're cutting staff. They've done a lot of things to do that. So it could be a ways to be more efficient. On the flip side, though, Retail sales jumped last month by the most in 2 years as consumers kept spending despite persistent inflation and higher interest rates. So the Commerce Department data showed that sales soared 3% in January from a month earlier, so 3% month over month. And the economists are expecting a 1.9% rate. So we went higher than the expected projection. Food services and drinking places saw the biggest spike, up 7.2%. People were going out in January and drinking and enjoying their life. I think a lot of that might have to do with even just vacations, right? Like a lot of people take vacations during that time after you come off the holidays, take a vacation. We do ours in February. I like that little extra break, and then doing it in February is awesome for us. So really, really great. Again, that's just playing into how the Fed's going to look at it, how inflation is going to be tamed, and how we're going to see consumers, if they're affected by this interest rate, because it doesn't seem they haven't been so much yet, right? Like we have a recession, and the job losses hasn't come in enough to predict or to have a slowdown in spending and in different areas that would push us into a recession. So now people are predicting more of a mild recession, if any at all, right? Because we're just seeing consumers spend so much that it just isn't feasible at this point. So that's the big news happening right now this week. Again, it's a little bit quieter, and that's not a bad thing. So let's get into questions of the week, trends, our rapid fire questions of the week. I love this because we can just dive into multiple questions of the week. First and foremost, how many states? I didn't want to show it. I showed the answer, but if you didn't see it, good, we'll do it. If you're listening to the podcast, you didn't see the answer, the YouTube people, you probably did. But let's do the question of the day here. How many of the states do not have income tax? I was going to guess 5 before I saw the answer. I was going to guess 5 because I know it's like Texas. That's the one thing I know. Now I'm like blanking on the ones that I know for sure. Texas, and I know that's one of the Wyoming, one of those places over there that's like a flyover. Where else? But now, if you could name them, that'd be great. And I just blanked on naming them. But let's go through them. There are 8 states. Oh, okay. Florida, that's what I should have known. Alaska, Florida, Nevada, South Dakota. South Dakota's popping up in there. Okay. Tennessee, Texas, Washington, and Wyoming don't have state income taxes. And there's different individual incomes by rate. California has the highest state individuals tax rates by state. New Hampshire is their taxes immense income, but they will eliminate those taxes by 2028. So all states have different ways of going about it. But as you see here, the states with none are Alaska, Florida, Nevada, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Washington, and Wyoming for state income taxes. So quite interesting there. Let's go to another question. Let's see if we make sure we don't have the question already answered before we get into it. I like this one. How long has the average US adult used the same checking account? How long does the average US adult use the same checking account? I was going to guess, I didn't have a guess for this one, but I would have guessed like 20 years or so. And the answer actually is 17 years. So the checking account tenure is 17 years on average. And that makes sense, right? Like I use the same one that one of the same ones that I had when I first got a bank account many years ago. And so you see most of people stick with that for a long time. Another question, what are the top 5 gifts purchased for Valentine's Day? All right, we're going to guess this one. Shouldn't be too hard. It would have to be flowers, chocolates, teddy bear. After those 3, I really don't know. Could dinner count as one? A dinner, maybe? Yeah, a dinner. And what else? A perfume, a scent. That'll be the top 5 of mine. Candy, chocolates, got it. Oh, greeting cards. I mean the same thing. Flowers, and even now dinner and jewelry. Oh, jewelry. Oh, missed that one. Jewelry, but the top one, 57%, was candy, chocolates, flowers, 37%, greeting cards at 40%, and evening out, a nice evening out, dinner, whatever, movie, 32%, and jewelry, 21%. That's the one I missed. Of course, jewelry makes sense. That's interesting. Yeah, people do. That's another holiday where the consumers spend It's not a bad thing to treat your partner and or yourself during Valentine's Day. Never a bad thing. So yeah, folks, this has been another insightful podcast. We learned a lot about a lot of things. So we do this every week. So make sure you tune in, Apple, Spotify, and also on YouTube. Subscribe, share, like, because we do this every week and we bring this to you, the news to you every single week. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk next week.